All right, so now we're going to look at the Web Animations API. And what I have here for the starter files is just a ball that's rotating and changing color. And right now, it's only using CSS. So it's animating with CSS keyframes. What I want to do is get rid of that CSS and do the same thing with JavaScript using the Web Animations API and also add some control to it. So we can play, pause, reverse it, increase the speed, and slow down the speed. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Now, just to show you, if we look at our index.html, of course, we have our buttons at the top and then the ID of ball and then an SVG. Okay, that ball is it's just an SVG that we're animating. And right now, if we look at the CSS, you can see the ID of ball. It has an animation of roll. It's infinite, 3 seconds linear. And that roll keyframe is down here. Basically, when it starts off at a certain point with the 0 rotate. And the color's white. At 30%, the color turns blue. And at 100%, it rotates 360 degrees and the color goes back to white. So I want to do this same thing in JavaScript. So what we can do is just comment out this line here where we're adding the animation, and now it's going to stop. Okay, you could completely delete this and the keyframe if you want. So I'm just going to leave it. I'll just keep it commented out. And then we're going to jump into our JavaScript file, and we're going to want to bring in the stuff that we need. So let's bring in the ball. So that has an ID of ball, and then we might as well bring in the buttons as well. So we have our play button, so let's grab this and change that to play. Then we have the pause, then we have the reverse button, and then we just have the speed up and slow down. So this one here is going to be speed up and speed dash up, speed dash down, and this one is going to be called speed down. All right, so we're bringing in everything we need. Now, the way that this works is ultimately we call an animate method, but we want to create an array first of our animation. So I'm going to call this roll animation, and we're going to set that to an array. And then we can use properties just like we did in the CSS. In fact, let's grab, so for transform, actually we could just copy this, except we want it formatted as a JavaScript object. So in our array we'll have an object. Let's paste that in. Now we want to change, let's see, transform, that's all well and fine, but we just want to put a comma here, and also this needs to be a string, this transform. So we want to just wrap this, let's see, we want to end that here. So that's the first string for transform, and then this white also needs to be a string. So we're just formatting it as, and get rid of that, we're just formatting it as an object. So that's the first one, and then the second one, we're going to set color to a string of blue, and let's also add an offset. So we'll put a comma, and then we'll say offset, and set that to 0.3. And then the last point that we want in here, we want to rotate it 360 degrees. So basically we want to do this same thing, except of course we want to format this as JavaScript or as a JavaScript object. So we want to get rid of the semicolon. We want to wrap that in quotes, put a comma, and then wrap white in quotes as well. Get rid of the semicolon. Okay, so now they're valid JavaScript objects. So this is our animation, and you can put any properties you want in here and set them to whatever value. Now we'll also create some options. So let's say const roll options, and that's going to be an object. And I'm going to set the duration here. So duration will be 3,000 milliseconds, 3 seconds. And then there's also an iterations property that I'm going to set to infinity because I just want it to keep going. All right, then what we can do is create the actual animation by, well, I'm going to call this roll, but we're going to set it to what we want to animate, which in this case is going to be, actually have ball up here, right? Yeah, so we want to set it to ball because that's what we want to animate. And then we can just do dot animate. And we want to pass in here the roll animation and then the roll options. And then I think that should do it. So let's save. And there we go. So now we're animating this purely with JavaScript. And if I want to change it, let's say duration. So now it's going really slow. If we do 1,000, then it's going faster. But I'm going to keep the default at 3,000. But I'm going to show you how we can add functionality to slow it and speed it up with these buttons. So first we'll go and add the play and pause. So we'll say, let's do the pause first. So pause, add event listener. So we're adding event listener to the pause button, and we're listening for a click. And when that happens, and just like the audio and video API, we can simply call pause. There's a method called pause, and there's a method called play. So I'll copy that down, and let's do play for this one. And that's going to be on the play button. So now I can hit pause and it will stop. Play, pause. So now we have full control of our animation. And it's just all through JavaScript, no CSS involved. So for the reverse, let's do that next. Let's call on the reverse element. So reverse, and then there's a method called reverse. Okay, now the way that this works is when I hit reverse, it'll go backwards as many times as it went forward, right? So let's actually reload, and it's going to go one loop. I'm going to hit reverse. It's going to go one loop, and it stops. If I let it go further than that, now play isn't working after reverse, and I'll fix that in a second. But if I let it go around, let's say 2 times, so that's 1, 2, and then I hit reverse, it's going to go back 2 times. So it won't just reverse and just keep going. It'll go as many times as it went forward, if that makes sense. Also, we can toggle it. So if I keep hitting it, it just toggles. Now, if you want to be able to hit play while it's in reverse, then we have to just add to this play right here. I'm just going to add some curly braces around this so I can write more than one line. And then after, actually before roll play, we're going to do roll dot, and we have access to the playback rate, the play state playback rate. And then I'm going to set that, actually that's a property, so I'm going to set that to 1. And then we should be able to reverse, and then if I hit play, it'll go back. Okay, so I can toggle it like that, or I can toggle it with just the reverse. Okay, so now I want to be able to speed it up and slow it down, and that's really easy because we have access to this playback rate property. So let's take the speed up button and let's add an event listener, and when we click on it, all we want to do is set the roll dot playback rate. We want to set it equal to whatever the roll dot playback rate is times 2. So now if we come over here and we click plus, it's going to go a little faster. Click plus again, and it's just going to keep going faster. Now I want to be able to slow it down as well, so all we have to do for that is let's just copy this line, and we want the slow down button, so slow down. And what we'll do is just take the roll playback rate and set it to whatever it is times 0.5, which will slow it down. Why is that white? Speed down? Oh, let's call that slow down. Okay, so now let's speed it up and slow it down. And we can literally slow it down till it's like stopped. All right. And maybe you could just add on to this and show the speed. Maybe just have a little area that shows the number, and as you increase and decrease, then it will display the speed. So that's could be an extra credit thing that you guys could do. All right, so that's the basics of the Web Animations API.